Yeah, I mean, I play a counterspell. I don't play Mana Leak.
Joey and I actually were having this conversation about why some people play Mana Leak versus some people play counterspell, and we decided that.
I mean, these people all play a lot of colorless mana. Also,
right.
Like, I'm seeing like 4 Wastelands, 3 Factories, only 1 Riptide Lab. He has a Tower of the Magistrate.
Yeah,
it's kind of crazy.
You're surprised at only the 1 Riptide Lab?
Yeah, I mean,
you'd play more.
I play like 3 Riptide Labs. I only play 2 Wastelands.
Yeah, I played Blue-White for a little while. I played in the Invitational, and I played 3 Wastelands, I believe, or 2 Wastelands, 1 on the side. It was a Chris Van Meter list. I talked to him about it. I was like, what would you change? He's like, nothing.
Yeah.
All right, fair enough.
Yeah, no, I agree with it. That list, the Chris Van Meter list that he won the Open with right after Snapcaster Mage came out.
Yeah.
I think if you go back to that very original list, it's probably better than just about any other list in the deck.
Yeah, it's actually really weird how Legacy works like that. I was talking to Kurt Spice. He's, I guess, a Legacy grinder, and he played a Blue-White list. I think he might have splashed red, and he was like, yeah, I switched my version to beat my last week's version, and then played my previous week's version, and just got next leveled into losing to my previous week's version. So like, eventually it comes back around. It's like a full circle where you eventually just start losing to the decks, the original versions that have been modified to beat the changing versions.
Yeah, I mean, that's the type of format it is, and I feel like the biggest problem is that you try to like change your deck so that it's good against things and like you shore up weaknesses, but you end up just making your deck, you know,
more inconsistent.
Worse. Yeah. And like the thing about the Blue-White Stoneforge deck is that it's just such like consistent animal, and like a lot of these people aren't playing Spell Stutter.
Yeah.
Was the person last round playing any Spell Stutter sprites? Do you know?
I did not see any.
That's like a pretty important part of the deck in my mind. I mean, if you're not playing Spell Stutter, then obviously like Riptide Lab becomes less of a thing that you need to worry about. But just having that end game of like just the ability to lock it up and say, all right, I have Spell Stutter Sprite and Riptide Lab with, let's say, these Mutavaults.
Yeah.
And all these people are playing Factories also, and like that's really difficult for most people to beat.
Yeah, I totally agree.
You just lock it up. And the other thing is that like you can get the game to that point. Like you're playing Swords to Plowshares and Snapcaster Mage. Like you should not lose to any creature decks.
Yeah.
All right, so Devin McBride leads things off with a Flooded Strand, and
he's on a mold of 5, unfortunately, for Devin.
And that's going to be rough.
That is going to be rough. We're just talking about how consistent the Blue-White Blade deck is, and unfortunately, sometimes that just happens. So you're predicting the Esper Blade deck is going to be victorious? Or excuse me,
I mean, now that Blue-White Blade mulligan to 5, obviously, I would change my prediction. But previous to the mulligan, I would say the Blue-White Blade deck would be victorious.
I misspoke on that. Apologize.
Like a 4th Snapcaster is so huge. I don't know how you don't play 4 of that card. So I think that's kind of a big thing here. I really don't like the Oblivion Ring in this Blue-White Blade deck. I don't think that card is very good here. I think Spell Pierce is fine, but again, like only really a card that's good in mirrors. Maybe with just, I don't think Jit is good in the main. I just disagree with a lot of card choices.
In this list. He's got the turn on. Oh,
the Spell Snare on that Stoneforge Mystic is going to be pretty painful for Devin because when you mulligan to 5 and your opponent's able to just keep trading 1 for 1 with you.
He might have a Spell Pierce
off
for
with an Ancestral Recall.
Does he have Spell Pierce? Yeah, he has 1 Spell Pierce in his deck. Does he have it?
If he's sacrificing that land, I imagine he does. Unless he's looking to do a cold Brainstorm here, but I don't know if I'd recommend that. No, don't Brainstorm a response. See, the major problem here is if he Brainstorms into a Force of Will and then forces this,
he's down practically a million cards.
He's just hemming himself really hard.
I didn't see what that 3rd card was.
And then he also just, that's the Tower of the Magistrate, I believe.
Is it?
I think it's altered.
Oh, okay. We will never know. See,
another major issue there is he just threw away Brainstorm. Like, he had that shuffle effect in hand.
Yeah.
And he had another Stoneforge in hand. Next turn he could have just cast another Stoneforge Mystic. And
Stoneforge.
Yeah.
We were actually talking about that too. The AJ's article about how to cast Brainstorm and pretty much never cast it.
Yeah, I mean that's how you're supposed to do it. That's the right way.
Yeah. Goes and finds Batterskull.
And you're searching for Batterskull as Stoneforge Mystic. If you're playing the deck correctly, about 95% of the time you're searching the Stoneforge Mystic.
I believe it.
For the first time. I think people try to get cute and search for different cards way too often.
Yeah.
Batterskull's the way to go.
You just want to go to town?
Yeah.
Bring the beats?
Beep, beep. Batterskull coming in the red zone.
I'm going to hear that noise every single time I ever attack the Batterskull.
Yes, it's the best.
Beep, beep.
Another Stoneforge Mystic from Devin. And he already had that in his hand. I think he even has another one beyond that. So he may have gone a little aggressive brainstorming there beforehand, because had he had that brainstorm now, he could have brainstormed and then cast his Stoneforge Mystic.
Oh, it is a I believe that is a Klug altered.
Oh, very nice. It's an AT Walker Batterskull.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I think I've seen that one before on Klug's blog.
Yeah, nice. It's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Man, I need a Batterskull like that.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna make my own.
I don't know. For those of you who don't know who Eric Klug is, he is one of the many alters and that attend our opens from time to time. He's a very, very, very talented individual.
Oh yeah, I mean his stuff's beautiful.
Yeah. You should Google his name and check out his website. He's amazing, as are the majority of the alters that we have.
Yeah.
Here.
So Bernie sacrificed step Blue Delta, finds himself an Underground Sea, and reveals that he's playing black in his Blade deck. And so he throws out a Thoughtseize.
He wants to get rid of that. Yeah. Oh, now he's faced with
Devin
a
had a Jason hand and cast Stoneforge instead?
Yeah, he did.
But dude...
See, Bernie thought it was safe. He was like, well, I'm going to get this Batterskull. And he's like, well, he's got the Jace too.
Yeah, I mean, he gets to, Bernie's still ahead because he gets to put the Batterskull in play, and it's like a pretty good way to deal with that Jace. But
yeah, what do you do there? You in his spot, you would have just Jaced and bounced.
Yeah, I just would have gone Jace bounce.
Yeah. I mean, that makes perfect sense. Probably might have been a more optimal play. Not 100% sure.
All right, so another Stoneforge Mystic comes down, and this time I imagine he's going to grab a Umezawa's Jitte. Nope, he gets sort of Feast and Famine. It's an interesting choice here.
Well, maybe he's getting it to be able to block the Batterskull token indefinitely.
Yeah, and that's fair. I mean, it does give protection from black. He can also, battle through the Batterskull with that sort of Feast and Famine.
Yeah.
No, Jitte is very strong in this matchup, though. So
I believe it. Would you said you didn't agree with the main deck Jitte? If you're expecting to play against mirror matches all day, do you main deck it?
I mean, I just don't think you have room.
That's fair.
That's fair, and I also think that even in the mirror, you're searching for Batterskull first, so it's like the time that it matters, where Jitte comes up is when you're resolving multiple Stoneforges, and by that point in the game, if you've been like engineering a game plan and just playing correctly, you should know what's going on and be able to play around everything.
I hope he's not wastelanding the wasteland.
I don't think he is. He wastelanded the wasteland? And his opponent didn't respond by sacrificing the wasteland? Alright. So his opponent instead chose to just get the Batterskull on the table. And I think that may spell the end of Bernie. I mean, Bernie's now down to 2 lands, and yeah, he has many more cards in hand, but this is a control mirror. And now Devin's just going to get to drop that sword into play.
Yeah.
And he's going to bring Bernie down to Frowntown.
Frowntown is not a place you want to go.
Nobody wants to visit Frowntown.
Got the t-shirt and the frowns.
Alright. Let's see, I think the first thing that's going to happen is beep beep. Oh no, he decides to brainstorm beforehand. This is just, Now, I mean, if he has a shuffle effect in hand already, that's fine. But again, I think that brainstorming blind. I guess also he's stuck on 2 lands, so just brainstorming into a 3rd land is again just fine here.
Yeah. Financially related news: Bernie's deck is very expensive. That brainstorm, not cheap. Looks like a foil brainstorm from Arcadia Mass.
Yeah.
Like, I want to say we buy them. Let's look them up before I say something that I don't want to say.
Really? Are those that expensive?
They're very expensive.
Huh.
I think we buy it for 50, but I'm going to double check.
50?
Yes.
Oh my goodness. I might have some of those.
Foil brainstorms?
Yeah.
They're real expensive. And of course, I can't get on the internet.
I don't know the legacy card prices as well as I should.
Well, he's got the foil wasteland too. Those things are very expensive as well. The original player reward ones.
Yeah. Those are really cool.
Yeah.
I don't really play with foils, so. I feel like when you get one foil, you kind of have to get all foils, and in Legacy, it's impossible to get all foils. There's no such thing as a foil Tundra.
The neat thing about Legacy is that I'm okay spending a lot of money on Legacy cards, like neat-looking Legacy cards, because they're not going down in value really. Like something has to happen, like get printed to change it completely. Like
ooh, Guru Plains.
Yeah.
There you go.
I told you his deck does not look cheap.
This deck is not cheap at
all. There goes the Guru Plains.
Oh, and look at all these foil Stoneforge Mystics and Batter Skulls flying around, showing off their shiny stuff. All right, yeah, and I mean, Bernie now.
Now with like the foil foreign sword.
Doing really well here.
Looks like it's Chinese from up here, but I could be wrong.
Bernie's tapped out. I wouldn't be surprised if Devin chose to go ahead and use his Jace to bounce that Batter Skull token. That's probably the correct play here. Yeah, I mean, No, don't do that. Alright, he instead just chooses to brainstorm. I mean, he's not even getting any value off this brainstorm.
Yeah.
That's the big problem. It's like, brainstorm is the most powerful card in the format, but if you're using your brainstorms like this, it's, you know, it's a Jataxian probe. It's not anything that's really...
I'm getting the message. Star City price for foil brainstorm, $89.99. Yeah, I did see that. I was right. We do buy it for 50. And that Guru Plains not cheap either. We buy that one for 40. Plains for $40.
It's an expensive Plains.
The only thing, I think the only more pimper version is Summer probably.
Yeah, I mean, Devin, instead of playing the Jace, chose to brainstorm with no shuffle effect and equip his Sword of Feast and Famine.
Maybe he read the How to Cast Jace the Mind Sculptor article, also written by AJ. Just don't.
I think with Jace, I think it's just the opposite, right? Don't you just slam it on the table and win? Like,
yeah. For those who
because on 4 mana,
I don't think AJ actually wrote an article that said that.
Yeah. Jace the Mind Sculptor's like a fairy godmother, you know?
No, it's not. It's not down that road. No. Jace.
And now the first opportunity where his opponent has Counterspell mana open, he goes for the Jace.
Force of Will didn't even need the mana. He had the Force.
Doesn't need to use the mana. Is there Force of Will on the Jace? And I mean, he mulliganed a lot, so it's rough here.
Swords.
Swords targeting the Stoneforge that has the sword equipped to it. The turn where he had brainstormed and sword equipped, it may have actually been stronger for him to have just sword equipped, attacked with the one Stoneforge, and then equipped the sword to the other Stoneforge. Even.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. That probably would have been a good play.
But Bernie's playing very well this game. It's,
that's another great part about Legacy. Like, even though you feel like the blue-white blade matchup or might be a little bit more in favor of the blue-white blade, a lot of Legacy is about how well you know your deck and how well you play your deck.
Yeah, and I mean, this deck is, you know, very similar to the other deck. It's like they're playing a mirror match.
Right, right.
And this is an extremely play-intensive deck.
Yeah.
That's going to reward the person who, you know, understands the mirror and has played the mirror a great deal.
Yeah. Snapcaster and the Brainstorm here.
And
I wonder. I obviously agree that casting Brainstorm, like whenever you have the most information, is always correct. But now that you have Snapcaster in the format, do you feel like you get to be a little bit more loose with your Brainstorms?
No.
No.
No. I mean, it just they're still awesome the longer you hold them, and the fact that you have 8 of them just makes them more awesome.
All right.
Like,
that's fair. That's fair.
I mean, if you don't have something to Snapcaster back, and you have a Snapcaster in your hand, and like, you know you're going to cast a dry sword, and you want to be able to like the next turn Snapcaster and then flashback something, then it's fine. But you just have to set it up correctly. Like, there's no reason to do it unless there's a reason to do it.
That makes sense. Oh, he's got a Jace of his own.
And yeah, this game is getting completely out of hand here. And we've seen Bernie just like grinding Devin out of this game. Again, Devin mulliganed here, but I mean, if you look at the number of cards in each player's hand and the number of cards on the table, even taking mulligans into account, Bernie is way ahead on cards.
Yeah, I agree. He another thing that I always like about Legacy, and it goes back to what we were talking about, how like the format just rotates and the decks change as far as like what cards are right to play. I remember a point not too long ago whenever Body and Mind was like the sort of preference in that format. What are your thoughts on that?
I've played one sort of Body and Mind over one sort of Feast and Famine on and off in my decks, and I like it a lot. I think, you know, when the format's like a lot of rug, it's really good.
Yeah.
Oh, here we have an interesting thing happening. So Devin's end of turn Snapcaster picks up the sword and attempts to get into the red zone. Bernie throws a Stoneforge Mystic in the way, and you know, that Swords to Plowshares took that Batterskull out, and Devin's, you know, doing as much work as he can to apply pressure onto that Jace.
Yeah, which is what has to happen here. That Jace, if he lives a few more turns, there's probably no way Devin can come back from this game. I almost always go with Sword of Feast and Famine now. I had a really bad experience with Body and Mind. I equipped a Body and Mind and attacked, and my opponent milled, and they were playing Enchantress, and then cast Replenish on the next turn.
Ooh.
And I lost that one real hard.
That is that's a pretty brutal one.
Yeah. To be fair, I probably played it wrong. Probably shouldn't have battled with that one, but I wanted a wolf.
Yeah.
What can I say?
Woof woof. Alright, so the Stoneforge Mystic comes in, and it gets to crack. So Bernie also Fate Sealing Devin now, after Devin's on no cards in hand. Or Devin has 1 card left in hand now? Bernie's deciding whether or not this is the card that he can let Devin keep. I mean, if you have to think this long, I'd just put it on the bottom.
It's always funny, like how long people take to make certain decisions in this format. Like, I
mean, every decision counts, so I understand.
It does. He Fate Sealed away a Wasteland, is what we're.
No, I think he kept it. He left it on top.
Oh, he left it on top.
Yeah, which seems completely reasonable.
Yes, I agree. Yeah, there's the Wasteland right there. It's hard to see his deck. His deck's being covered up by the life totals.
Yeah. All right, and Snapcaster getting in there. And why was that Stoneforge Mystic tapped?
I believe he did he attack with it?
Well, it doesn't have a Batter Skull equipped to it?
He equipped it after combat.
Oh, okay.
That was interesting. I guess now that he found the information that he wanted with Jace, he felt like it was the...
Oh, well, he untapped his lands, too, from the Feast and Famine, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So here he is brainstorming again, just gaining more of that advantage with Jace.
Mm-hmm.
Select his cards. And let's see. I mean, something nice about a Stoneforge equipped with Batter Skull is it's not green or black.
Spell Snare.
Spell Snare.
I don't know if he had another thing to find.
No, I don't think he did. I think that was a Spell Snare on a Squire.
Yeah.
But I mean, the Squire is relevant now. It blocks the Jaces. So.
That's true.
I mean, Devin, if he finds a Swords to Plowshares in any reasonable amount of time, he's...
Yeah, that's one of the things about the Esper list. I don't think it doesn't play any manlands, so your swords are dead without your guys.
Alright, and a Brainstorm off the top for Devin. Just shows him Brainstorm, Snapcaster, and something else. So Snapcaster's going to be pretty strong here. He's going to go ahead and attack. Bernie will block here with a massive Stoneforge Mystic.
Mm-hmm.
Stoneforge Mystic currently receiving +6/+6 from the combination of Sword and Feast and Famine and Batter Skull.
And he passed it up. Beep, beep, indeed.
Yeah.
Beep, beep, I'm a Batter Skull.
And, you know, when you're playing against this Esper Blade deck, a lot of the times it's not right to just start casting your Stoneforge Mystics as fast as possible. You just want to sit there and wait. Like, this matchup is all about waiting. The person who goes for it first, the person who starts trying to fight for something first, is going to lose.
Yeah.
More times than not. So you're just going to want to, you know, play it slow, take your time, and, you know, if you think about everything and you let your opponent make the first step, then you know what line of play you have to make in order to beat them. And that's what's really important in these matchups.
Yeah, definitely how it works with almost any control deck, I feel.
Yeah, any type of control mirror is very similar to that. You know, usually the first person to make a step is the person who ends up losing. I had a win in Baltimore.
Mm-hmm.
I was playing for top 8 in a Legacy event, and I was playing Blue-White Blade, and I was playing a mirror match against AJ Soccer, and neither of us attempted to cast a spell until like turn 9.
I agree.
So I mean, that's how it plays out a lot of the time. And like we both had Stoneforge and tons of different stuff in my hand. He also had all that stuff in his hands, and you just don't want to go for it until you actually are going to discard cards because you're missing land drops.
Right. That's my general rule. If I'm going to start discarding cards to land drops, I'm going to feel okay about running something out there,
a little bit.
Something small.
But I was able to engineer a turn where I resolved the Jace in game 3, but he had the Haymaker and resolved an Elspeth the next turn, and Elspeth beats Jace. We both were resolved. So it was close. It was a really close game. It was a really fun match. But these types of mirrors can be some of the most fun Magic if you enjoy that type of thing. And I mean, I love this type of mirror.
Do you?
I would love to hop into either of these players' seats right now and take over.
That's the weird thing about watching Magic and commentating on Magic is a lot of the times you do have close to perfect information, so it's a lot easier to see the most direct line.
Yeah.
I always try to like point out the lines that maybe they chose because they didn't know that they didn't know he had the Path to Exile in hand, or they didn't know he had his one of Spell Pierce in hand, stuff like that. Like,
all right, so in the sideboards here. Devin McBride has access to 3 Path to Exile, 1 Oblivion Ring, 2 Wrath of God, 1 Flusterstorm, 2 Spell Pierce, a Crucible of Worlds, 1 Manriki Gusari, Relic Virginitas, and 3 Surgical Extraction. I don't think you should ever sideboard a Manriki Gusari. I don't think it's good. It's too hard to assemble that.
I played that.
You're jumping through way too many hoops. Have you tried it?
I played that deck once, and I had like this package of equipment in the sideboard that I could, theoretically use in different matchups. And Manriki Gusari was one of them, and every single time I picked up my sideboard, it was just staring at me, like, haha, you put me in the deck.
Nice slot,
I gotcha.
buddy. Yeah.
you heard about me in Providence, and now all of a sudden people think that I want to run this in here.
Now, cards that he's going to bring in, I imagine one Crucible of Worlds is pretty nice here.
Yes.
Just maintaining a mana advantage is pretty huge, and Crucible of Worlds, in a lot of ways, in this type of match, is almost as powerful as having a Jace in play, and it's a Jace that they can attack.
Right. So, especially against the Esper mana base, like just.
Yeah, it's just huge. If you can assemble the Wasteland plus Crucible, it's especially strong. But even just using Fetch Lands in conjunction with the Crucible and gaining an incremental advantage in that regard, like just card advantage, in the form of lands, it's so huge. I think Crucible is probably the best card in his sideboard. I'm glad that he has one of it. I like one Crucible in these sideboards. The Surgical Extractions, I don't think will come in. The Relic Progenitus, no. Manriki Gusari, I guess if he has it, this is the matchup he wants it for, but I wouldn't bring it in. I don't think it's very good. I can't imagine searching for that before I search for a Batterskull, before I search for a Jit.
Let's look back to the last match that was played, or the last game.
Yeah.
And at any point during he had 3 Stoneforges, I believe, that game. Devin did, and if at any point would he have went and gotten the Manriki Gusari, and it actually been better than the sword or the Batterskull he got? Do you think?
Well, I mean, he was able to resolve that sword, but that's just because Bernie let it resolve.
Right.
Through a force, so I don't know. Here we have the game beginning, and Devin on the play.
No blue mana.
Hand with no blue mana, so hopefully he draws out of this. Ooh, and a Wasteland, that's going to be good. Maybe he can make both players have no blue mana. Might be the right play here. And that's what he chooses to go ahead and do.
Now, whenever you say that you never want to make the first move in these type of matchups, do you consider that making a move, like just blowing up the other land?
No.
Yeah,
I think that's fine. Like, especially if you're just keeping things at parity. Like, he doesn't have blue mana. Maybe if he destroys his opponent's Tundra, keep his opponent off blue mana.
I definitely agree with it, but like I said, just trying to find the different schools of thought on this stuff.
Yeah, and now the Brainstorm here in response. Now, normally I wouldn't advocate a Brainstorm this early in the game, but he just had a Tundra blown up by a Wasteland, and he may not have another source of blue mana. So
he doesn't have another source of blue or white, it looks like.
Yeah, it doesn't look like he does. So even after that Brainstorm, he just went fishing and didn't find it, which means even the top card of his library is not going to be a blue source, and he knows that 100%.
Devin misses the land drop.
Some Riptide Labs staring at each other from across the table.
This is an awkward game.
Riptide Laboratory, my favorite card of all time.
Is it?
Yes.
Out of every card in Magic?
Out of every card in the game Magic the Gathering, Riptide Laboratory is my favorite card of all time.
Huh.
Oh, and more lands that aren't blue.
I think Arcbound Ravager is probably my favorite card.
The Fairy Godmother itself, right?
Yeah.
It's a good one.
It is. It made me think I was really good at Magic for like a period of time. Or, I was like 16 or 17 at the time, just destroying people in my shop with Ravager. Well, he's got the blue source now, so things are looking up for Devin.
Yeah, it looks like Devin is just running away with this game now. Bernie is just discarding cards, and Devin just getting a massive advantage here.
Brainstorm. And we get the inhale from Jacob.
Yeah, and he did it on his end step too. He could have just waited till his main phase and got a card deeper, so. But I mean, here it's fine. He just got the Stoneforge Mystic, so what he can do here is, like if he was looking for another blue source, he would have rather waited till his own turn to be most effective, because he would have got one card deeper.
Right.
But he gets lucky here, and he has a Stoneforge in hand, and he hits another blue source, so he can get that blue source off the top of his deck.
Well,
and why did he put the? Oh yeah, I guess he did it on his opponent's turn. But I mean, what I would have done is I just want to Brainstorm main phase,
right,
and then put 2 non-land cards on the top of my deck, and then cast the Stoneforge to shuffle my library.
Yeah. It was interesting what happened there. I think I'm not sure if he had a Jace or not, but he could have just been hunting for a Jace and a blue source to fade some out of the game, and that kind of forced. I don't want to say forced, but Bernie got rid of that Tundra just to stop that from happening, to at least slow it down another turn.
I mean, that's very reasonable. Like, if your opponent's is willing to take the risk of, burning a Brainstorm to, lock something up in that way, I don't think you really need to do that if you have 3 lands in play, including a blue source, and your opponent has basically nothing.
Yeah.
In a control mirror, there's really no reason to get frisky and start wasting cards when you don't need to.
Thoughtseize, you're gonna see what's happening. Brainstorm.
And Brainstorm in response
Do you
to
agree
the
with this one?
I mean, it depends what's in his hand. If he has, I think the times I brainstorm in response to that are when I have a Jace and an island in my hand.
He's putting back Elspeth and...
Oh, Elspeth is...
Yeah.
That'll do. That'll do just fine.
Yeah.
That'll do, pig.
So he might have had the Elspeth and was just hunting for another land in general.
Yeah, and he has...
which makes sense.
Colorless land, but...
What do you take here? Do you take Force?
No. I think he just takes Swords. I mean, if he has double Swords, I think I concede here.
Success is his only option.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you can take Force. Force is like the worst card in his hand here, I think, because like if he draws another blue source, the V-Click is a huge problem. Force at least like 2-for-1s him at this point. That's kind of what you're looking to do. Like if you can him him with any card, it's pretty good here. Yeah, and he takes the V-Click. I think that's probably the card I'd want to take here. Hold on a second. Whoa. Devin just drew an extra card.
Devin just Vendilion clicked. Wait a minute. He thought that Thoughtseize was Vendilion click.
Devin just
resolved Vendilion click off
his Vendilion click on the bottom of his library and drew an extra card when his Vendilion click got Thoughtseized. All right, so
they're pausing now. Looks like they're gonna try to back this up.
Yeah.
Luckily for us, we have perfect information, or we have the information, so we actually knew what card it was.
But we don't know what card he just drew. Or we do.
Yeah, we do.
So it's the Elspeth because he put it back with the Brainstorm.
Right. Yeah.
And then what card did he draw for his turn? Well, we know what was in his hand.
Well, the Elspeth was on bottom. He put the Elspeth back first, I think. I don't know. That's a very, very sticky situation to be in.
Yeah, because we don't know, because he drew the 2 cards at once. So we don't know what order they were in. We don't.
Yeah.
And he drew it face down. We couldn't see it.
Yeah. That happened really fast, too.
Yeah, I mean, we saw it right away, but it's impossible. We're across the room. We can't just like throw a ball.
No!
And I don't think this was intentional on Devin's part at all. This was definitely a mistake.
That's just one of those things where you're just kind of under pressure. They take the V-click and you're thinking V-click in your mind. And you're like, V-click on bottom, draw my card.
You're like, oh, Vendilion click, and that's how you're doing things.
Actually, whenever someone resolves a Vendilion click against me, before I draw my card, I always say draw for a Vendilion click, just to make sure that nothing is happening.
Yes. Now, I mean, Devin's going to get a game loss here.
Is that the only option, you think?
I think so.
Even with all the information that we have?
If I was his opponent and he did not get a game loss here, I would actually be very, very upset.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it's unfortunate, but he drew an extra card, and, you know, the game state is impossible to recreate because we don't know what order he put the cards back with the Brainstorm, and he drew the cards face down.
Yeah, it's just a very, very, looks like he's getting...
And it's a shame. That's not a good way to win, and, like, Bernie doesn't seem too happy about it either.
Yeah. That's always a really awkward moment whenever your opponent gets game loss or something like that. Cause,
I mean, you don't want them to get the game loss for it, but at the same time, like, those types of things need to happen.
Right.
In order for people to not just, like, egregiously do that and hope they get away with it.
Right.